Alright, so if you read the title of this video, this is how to install a heated steering wheel on basically any second-gen Cruze. It's a little bit complicated, but I'm going to try and explain it. And instead of like showing how I do it, I think this is better to explain it afterwards. Especially how to remove the airbag and all that. But so first things first, when you get in your car, you should disconnect the battery. And when you do that, you can now remove the, basically start to remove the steering wheel. You need to first remove the cover back here. I think it's just 2 clips and then 2 screws, or maybe 3. I don't know, I don't have that. I lost it somewhere. It's somewhere in my basement because I've been just doing a bunch of different projects without that, so I've been just driving without the cover there. But pretty simple to remove that. Now this is where it gets complicated, where you want to remove the airbag. So I found a really neat technique, and that is, so from the back side, once you remove that, you can work your screwdriver for the back, and you want to basically slot it into here and push downward, so that you want the steering wheel upside down, push downwards, and that will, or upwards, downwards, whatever way that this goes, so that's upwards, downwards, whatever. And you just want to basically unlatch that and kind of pull back on this, so like kind of pivot it a bit, and that will pop the bottom hook there. Now the top two, a little bit more difficult. So what you want to do is still use your screwdriver or whatever you have, like a pick or something. You want to fish it through the top here and try and grab this, and then these slide outwards like so. So these go all the way over there, and then they just clip back once. But basically, once you get these 2 clips here, once you get them inwards, this piece will just come right out. Very easy. Now, after you do all that, you got a T50, yeah, T50 torque stick there. You just basically put it in there, use a breaker bar, and you turn it counterclockwise to loosen it, but use a breaker bar, use a long one. Don't use an impact. Don't try and use like a regular old like wrench here. You might strip it. Some people have already, when they replace the steering wheel or tried to, they strip that, and it's not a fun day when that happens. So then, after that, you can remove the steering wheel, and then you have your clock spring. And this is just held on by 3 clips here. But before, actually I should mention these connectors here. You just pull this little like lock and tab out, and then you push it, and then it just comes undone. There's one on both sides. But once you're at the clock spring, for one, do not turn it. Make sure your wheel is like completely straight when you do this. And make sure when you remove the clock spring, you'll keep it dead center. But once you do that, you can put in your new clock spring. So you're going to need this clock spring here. Part number 391-36243. That is the upper trim level clock spring that's also used on some Buicks and Cadillacs. This here is the base trim, or I guess LT trim, not L or LS trim, but this one's the like LT trim or whatever. And that's the part number. But you want to get this part number here for the clock spring. That is what you want. And if you're wondering, the wheel I'm using is, that is the part number right there. 1340, focus, 8419. I think there is an updated part number, but if you go to like GM Parts Direct and just basically search up that clock spring part number or whatever part numbers I say here, you can find compatible versions and newer versions available, because GM over time releases new part numbers for the same thing with slight different revisions and whatnot. But like I said, when you get your new clock spring, make sure you put it on. Well, when you remove your old one, make sure when you remove it, it's centered. Use 2 zip ties. Hold it straight. Don't let this rotate. You're gonna have a hard time if you do that, because you'll just break in and have to buy a new one or whatever. I think new clock springs come with like lock-in tabs on them, but I bought a used one off of eBay from a wrecked, I think it was a wrecked Buick or something. But doesn't matter what it's from, as long as it's like this compatible part number, you'll be good. So then, once you get that on, you can do one of two things. I think I'll show you which of these pins you want. Well, which of these pins is power and which one's ground. So this yellow-black wire here, that is your ground. I went through all the wiring and traced it and all that, and this is ground. Your green, gray, green, purple, I'm not exactly sure. I wrote it down here. Yellow, black, ground pin 1, green, gray, 12 volts. But because this is a clock spring, everything gets like reversed. So your top wire is actually on the back side here. That is going to be your ground. Now, those leads, you need to get special leads or pins for this connector, because these are a JST something or another. I looked up the part number, but you need a special crimp tool and all that. However, I did find GM does sell wire leads. They sell like a service lead, basically. And the part number you want is 13575742. And you'll need 2 of them. I got 3 because that's what was available at the time, and I was going to experiment with a few other things, but basically, your ground is the top pin on this connector here. And then your 12 volts is down on the bottom. So if you look here, you've got your ground and then your 12 volts. So ground, 12 volts. It's going to be essentially just flipped on the back side here. But then you can just run those 2 wires. So I ran my 2 leads down there through the firewall, which I did a video about installing stuff through the firewall. I basically fish it through to my auxiliary fuse block in the engine bay. But let me show you guys that this actually works. Now I'm gonna get a airbag light because I have the airbag disconnected, but that's no big deal. But watch this. As you can see, I've got a heated wheel now. Everything works. And it's pretty much seamless. I mean, like, yeah, it just works. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, just 2 wires, ground and positive. And yeah. I mean, it's a lot of work removing the steering wheel, and probably going to be a lot of money to get steering wheel or clock spring and the leads. But if you want a heated wheel, you can do it. Now, something I do want to note is hatch owners. I think I've checked like 3 different hatches, and I've asked people and all that. So on the hatch and the Premier trims, they already have the wiring for the clock spring on the backside on this harness here. You still need a clock spring and you still need a heated wheel. But from what I know is that on the hatchbacks, they already have the wiring from factory to add in a heated steering wheel. Don't quote me on this, but I'm fairly certain about it. But you can easily check by just seeing if you have the wires there. If you do, then you can just as easily get a clock spring and a steering wheel, and it should just be plug and play. Sedan owners, like me, well, you're gonna probably have to wire it. Because I think the only cars that got it were Premier trims. But the hatchback seems to have it. So I hope this video explains everything in pretty good detail. Some of this might sound like I'm rambling a bit, but I'm trying to be as in-depth for information and try and provide as much information as possible so you guys have no major issues when going to go do this. But yeah, I mean, I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope this helps you, and see you guys in the next video.